Hello everyone, welcome to Canteen Cup. My name is Scott, and I hope everybody's doing well. I hope I hope that you're in somewhere, in some place where you are safe and secure. It's a crazy world, and getting downright scary. I hope those of you that watch my YouTube videos, both here and on Patreon, and I do have a Patreon channel by Canteen Cup, and I am currently posting stuff on both YouTube and Patreon. I hope that as you see fit, that maybe you can subscribe to my Patreon channel. I have one level there. It's $1 a month. Not out to make a lot of money, but in Patreon, you gotta, to get on Patreon, you have to do something so they can make money. And the smallest membership subscription rate's $1 a month, and that's what I use. I would have made it 50 cents, but it is what it is. But I think it's a place to go to right now. It is a place of refuge. Not sure how long YouTube is going to, remain an open forum. They censor a lot of people now. I try not to get overly political about my stuff so I can remain open and provide information to people. But however, that could change, and I could be labeled somebody, just put whatever title you want there, and then I am cut off from my YouTube audience. So I do have a Patreon channel. Right now, a lot of content there is free. I am going to start kind of mixing it up a little bit and put some stuff that's free and then some stuff that's a subscribed content, just because I'm digging deeper into things, and it does take time. So, but in general, I'm just trying to get stuff out there for everybody. So that being said, are you ready? Do you know what ready looks like? For us, we're probably never fully ready. And I think for many of us, we're never fully ready. There's always something else you can do, something more you can do. And then there's adapting, to different situations. Where we live out here in a rural area is different than we lived in a more suburban area. The county that we moved from used to be semi-rural in nature, and over the past couple of years has gotten more suburban in nature, and the population went to a really, what I thought was a pretty severe growth spurt. And it was kind of like I woke up one morning and my little country county was no longer a little country county, that it had morphed into a suburb of a larger city nearby. And so that being said, we moved. But regardless of where you live, and if you choose to live in a more suburban area, either you have to or want to, or you can't, are you ready? And I can posit that living in a more suburban area, or even an urban area, would have different requirements than living in a more rural area. A quick example off the top of my head is, if you live in a more populated area, maybe your preparedness concentration might be to leave that area. In other words, you know, your preparations are geared towards bugging out instead of bugging in. And hopefully, if that's your situation, you can get out of that, because that's really not a good solution to any preparedness problem, is, you know, always being on the cusp of leaving. And the reason why I say that is typically all your preps, everything you have is in your home. You know, your food, your water, all that stuff is in your home. And if you are preparing to leave your home, then you're leaving all that stuff behind you, all that good resources, because you only have so many vehicles. You may only have so many trailers. You can only carry so much weight. You can only carry so much things. You know, there's a lot of stuff that goes in. If you've ever moved, or if you moved recently, you know, that's a big endeavor. And so I'm hoping that if you are in an area where you feel that your first recourse is to bail out, to bug out, that you are able to move into a more rural or safer area. You know, that being said, for those of us that live in the country, that we should be prepared to leave also. But that's not our primary preparedness focus. For me, I'm primarily prepared to bug in, to stay at my location as long as it's safe. And looking at my situation now, I think that's still a pretty good long-term plan, is to prepare to bug in and, you know, ride out the storm at my home. However, you know, we are prepared to leave. We are prepared to, what I call, flee. In other words, you know, that my place becomes, you know, so inhospitable that my only recourse is to flee, to leave to another location. And I do have plans for other locations. But in general, I want to stay where I am, because this is where my food is, this is where my water is, this is where my stuff is. Also, where we moved, excuse me, is we moved closer to family and friends. And so I have a pretty good support group right where I am. And I have good neighbors right where I am. And so I'm in the best, right now I feel I'm in the best spot for me right now. But the world is crazy. Man, if you guys are still living and working in the cities, you guys need to go. I mean, it is crazy. We took a vacation a couple weeks back, and you know, rather than drive in or around a major city near our house, we took the long way out, and we avoided that city completely because they're doing crazy stuff in that city. And I'm telling you, you know, people are scared. And I'm not talking about, you know, just your prepper types. I think people in general are scared, that they are afraid of what's happening. They are afraid of some of the events they are seeing, and I think part of what they're afraid of is that they are seeing a lack of enforcement of the law by people who are hired to enforce the law. And I think that is what people are afraid of. There is a purveyor of fine ammunition by me, and I went to visit him. I stopped by and visit him, and that's where I get my stuff from. And I went just yesterday, and all the the common rounds, all the common ammunition was gone. He had almost no 5.56. He had very little 9mm. He had very little 308. It was gone. And I talked to the guy, and he had a run, kind of like not a run on the bank, but a run on the bullets on Monday. And he said in his lifetime of, I think he's had this company for 40 years, he's never seen anything like it. They were busy from the time they opened to the time they closed. But it did give me food for thought. And while I was walking through there, if you wanted to buy some what I call, off the wall rounds, oh, excuse me, I get a little allergy kicking in. Like I said, you had trouble buying 308 or 5.56 or 9mm. However, he had plenty of things like 300 Winchester Magnum, 300 Winchester Short Magnum, 444 Marlin, 4570. He had plenty of that. And really that kind of got me thinking, that in our little arsenals of firearms, I don't have an arsenal. I have enough, I guess. But that maybe I should have maybe at least one rifle that is not a common caliber. Something that's a little off the wall. Not terribly off the wall, but a little off the wall, that I would still be able to get bullets for. In other words, one that's not uncommon, but not one that's super popular. Because like I said, you couldn't buy the common rounds, but you can get the stuff that was a little uncommon all day long. So that's something to think about, and that did not compute until I actually walked in there and started looking around to see what he had versus what he didn't have. But it was amazing. This is a guy that keeps lots and lots and lots of bullets and had not very many of the common ones. But are you ready? Are you as ready as you can be? And then let me ask you how you measure that. Do you measure your preps to someone that's in a similar situation like you? In other words, if you are an urban guy, and are you using a country boy's preps as your measuring stick to how well you're doing? That may not be a good idea. You may be setting yourself up for disaster. If I was in an urban area, I would look to see what other urban preppers are doing and can take those considerations, because your wants and needs will probably be different than my wants and needs, because I live out in the country, whereas my plan is to basically bug in. Yours is probably basically to bug out, because if things really, really get bad, if they devolve, you don't want to be in the city. I don't care how nice a condo you have, you don't want to be there. But that's the whole gist. I'm watching things unfold. I am amazed at what city leaders are allowing in their cities. I was just about flabbergasted when the city of Minneapolis allowed riots to continue for weeks, did really nothing to stop them, even allowed them to overrun their city hall. And then the governor wants the feds to declare that a national emergency so that they can get federal funds to help fix their city that they allowed to be destroyed. And I feel for the Minnesotans, I feel for the people that live in Minneapolis. However, that's my tax dollars. And I don't feel that my tax dollars, should be paying for what you call a peaceful demonstration or whatever. And I feel the same way about that stuff out in Seattle. That's fine if you want to allow that to happen. That's fine if you want them to tear up your city and you allow them to tear up the city and you call it a love fest while people are being killed. Fine, that's your city. Your people in that city elected you as elected officials, but don't expect me to pay for it. In other words, if the state of Minnesota allowed that city to burn itself to the ground, then the state of Minnesota should fix it. Same thing I feel about my state, that if my state burned itself to the ground, then it's the responsibility of my state and or that city to fix it. It's just I don't feel that my tax dollars should go fix somebody else's errors in judgment. That if they created that mess, then they need to fix that mess. That's just it's just the way I feel. So that being said, I don't wish ill on anybody, but I do, I do look at that and think, holy cow, my goodness. So that's just a little bit amusing. I got my concrete pad on the back of my shipping container, which is my workshop, done. And I got to change the oil, and it's so much easier to lay on smooth concrete than it is to lay on gravel, and it's level. I like it a lot. We continue to push forward. Our next project is to put an awning over the top of that concrete pad so that I'll have a covered maintenance area, and it'll also work as our outdoor kitchen, as a picnic area, whatever we deem. It'll be a place where I can, work on projects for things that my wife wants built. I'll have a place in the shade out of the rain, a place to put sawhorses or work tables up on. And it'll be nice. I have an electric outlet nearby there now too, so you got to build the infrastructure to get everything else to happen. It's not all about, this is not all about guns and bullets and knives and even gardening and planting and whatever. You have stuff, you have vehicles, you may have a tractor, you have chainsaws, you have weed eaters, lawnmowers, tractors, and all that stuff needs to be maintained. And so you got to have a place to do that. You got to have the tools to do that, and you have to have what the Army calls the POL, petroleum oils and lubricants, to keep that stuff running. It's more than just just a garden and just planting things. That you have machinery, you have tools that need to be repaired. So that's all I got for this little go around. I hope everybody's doing well. Stay safe and stay secure. We'll see you out there.